The plane touched down late, and by the time I dragged myself through the front door, my bones ached from weeks of endless meetings and stale hotel coffee. It was late October, and the suburban street outside glowed faintly under a harvest moon, the crisp air thick with the scent of fallen leaves. I'd been dreaming of my quilted bedspread for days, something soft to sink into, a refuge from the blur of conference rooms and recycled air. My suitcase thudded softly against the hardwood as I eased the door shut behind me, careful not to wake the house. All I wanted was peace, the kind that comes with being home. But peace wasn't waiting for me that night. The living room stretched out ahead, dim and quiet, lit only by the flickering glow of a table lamp I'd picked up at a flea market years ago. Its warm light spilled across the couch, catching the edges of a throw blanket draped haphazardly over the cushions. And there he was, Lucas, my stepson, sprawled out like he owned the place, his laptop balanced on his knees, casting a soft blue hue across his face, and his hand, well, it was moving under that blanket, quick and awkward, like he was chasing something he didn't quite know how to catch. My breath snagged in my throat, sharp and sudden, like I'd stepped on a shard of glass. I stood there, frozen in the shadow of the doorway, my coat still hanging heavy on my shoulders. The wind outside tapped golden leaves against the window pane, a faint rhythm that matched the thudding in my chest. Lucas didn't see me. Didn't hear me either. His eyes were glued to that screen, lost in whatever world he'd stumbled into. I couldn't make out the details from where I stood, but I didn't need to. The way his shoulders tensed, the flush creeping up his neck, it told me enough. My suitcase felt like an anchor, pinning me to the spot as a flood of emotions crashed over me. This was Lucas, little Lucas, who'd tagged along on family camping trips with muddy sneakers and a gap-toothed grin. The boy I'd watched grow up after I married his dad, the one who'd burned toast for me on lazy Sunday mornings while we laughed over the smoke alarm. We'd built something over the years, a bond stitched together with shared stories and quiet moments. I'd seen him through awkward teenage years, cheered at his high school graduation, and now here he was, early 20s and broad-shouldered, a man in a way I hadn't fully clocked until this very second. And yet this private, unguarded slice of him was something I'd never imagined walking in on. For a heartbeat, I thought about slipping back out the door, letting the night swallow me up again, give him his space, pretend I'd never seen. But my feet wouldn't budge. Something else stirred in me, a flicker of curiosity I couldn't shake, bold and uninvited. The air felt thicker now, charged with the weight of what I'd stumbled into. I shifted my weight, the floor creaking faintly under my boots, and Lucas still didn't notice. His hand kept moving, frantic but unsure, like he was wrestling with himself under that blanket. Outside, the wind picked up, rustling the trees, and I stood there, caught between retreat and something riskier, something I didn't have a name for yet. What was I supposed to do? Yell? Laugh it off? My mind spun, but my body stayed rooted, watching him in the lamplight. And then, like a match striking in the dark, a thought flared up. Maybe this didn't have to end with me walking away. Maybe this was the start of something I couldn't predict. The living room felt like a held breath, the air heavy with the rustle of leaves tapping the window and the faint hum of Lucas's laptop. I stood there, still framed in the doorway, my coat damp from the autumn chill clinging to me like a second skin. The lamplight painted him in soft golds and shadows, Lucas, my stepson, caught in a moment so private it made my pulse stutter. His hand jerked beneath the throw blanket, quick and clumsy, and I could see the tension in his jaw, the way his brow furrowed as he stared at that glowing screen. He hadn't heard the door, hadn't sensed me watching. Part of me screamed to back away, to let the shadows swallow me and pretend this never happened. But my boots stayed glued to the hardwood, and something else, a spark I couldn't name, kept me there. The wind outside picked up, rattling the panes, and I shifted my weight, the floor groaning under me. No going back now. I cleared my throat, a soft sound, barely more than a whisper, but it hit the room like a thunderclap. Lucas flinched, his hand freezing mid-motion, the blanket slipping just enough to show the edge of his sweatpants. His head snapped up, eyes wide and wild, locking with mine. The laptop wobbled on his knees, the screen flickering with something I didn't dare focus on. Not yet. His face flushed crimson, guilt and shock twisting his features into something almost boyish again, like the kid I'd caught sneaking cookies years ago. But this wasn't cookies. This was raw, unguarded, and it hung between us like a live wire. "Grace," he stammered, his voice cracking as he fumbled to pull the blanket higher. I didn't hear you come in." His hands scrambled, one snapping the laptop shut with a dull thud, the other clutching the fabric like it could shield him from the moment. He wouldn't look at me now, his gaze darting to the floor, the wall, anywhere but my face. I took a slow breath, steadying myself, and let my suitcase settle against the wall. "Hey, Lucas," I said, keeping my voice calm, controlled, like we were just chatting over coffee. "Didn't think I'd catch you up this late." I shrugged off my coat, hanging it on the rack by the door, the rustle of fabric loud in the silence. His embarrassment was a living thing, radiating off him in waves, but I didn't flinch. I'd seen worse in my years. Hell, I'd lived worse. And something about his wide-eyed panic tugged at me, daring me to push instead of pull away. "I didn't—" He swallowed hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. "I didn't think anyone be home. Dad said you were back tomorrow." His fingers tightened on the blanket, knuckles white, and I caught the way his eyes flicked to my suitcase, like it might explain why I was standing there ruining his night. "Well, here I am," I said, offering a small smile, soft but steady. I stepped forward, my boots clicking faintly against the floor, closing the gap between us. "Got tired of hotel pillows. Your dad's still out, though. He'll roll in tomorrow. Thought I'd beat the rush." My words were casual, but I saw his gaze drop, skittering over my sweater, my jeans, then back to the couch. He squirmed, discomfort rolling off him like heat off asphalt, and I felt that spark flare brighter inside me, mischief maybe, or something bolder. I stopped a few feet from the couch, the lamplight catching the edge of my silhouette. "No need to stop on my account, Lucas," I said, my tone dipping just enough to tease light but deliberate. "We've all got our moments. I won't judge." His head jerked up, eyes locking on mine again, and I held his stare, letting the words settle. Confusion flickered across his face. Then something darker. Curiosity, maybe, or a question he didn't know how to ask. The blanket shifted as he moved, and I caught a glimpse of the laptop's closed lid, a silent accomplice in this strange dance we'd stumbled into. For a second, I wondered if I'd gone too far, if I should laugh it off and head upstairs. But the air crackled with something unspoken, and I stayed put, waiting to see what he'd do next. This wasn't just about catching him, it was about what happened now, and I wasn't ready to walk away. The living room pulsed with a quiet tension, the lamplight flickering like it was holding its breath right along with us. Lucas sat there on the couch, the throw blanket bunched around his lap, his laptop now a dark slab beside him. His eyes darted between me and the floor, wide and searching, like a deer caught in headlights. The wind outside howled low, rattling the windows, but inside it was just us. Me standing a few feet away, my boots still planted on the hardwood, and him frozen in the aftermath of my words. "We've all got our moments," I'd said, and now those words hung heavy, daring one of us to move first. I took a step closer, the faint scent of my lavender perfume curling into the space between us. It was a familiar smell, something I'd worn since Lucas was a kid, back when he'd hug me after a long day and leave grass stains on my skirt. But tonight, it felt different, like it was weaving itself into something new. I eased onto the couch beside him, close enough that my knee brushed the edge of the blanket, and his breath hitched, sharp and quick. He clutched the fabric tighter, his knuckles paling, but he didn't pull away. "You're a man now, Lucas," I said, my voice low, teasing but steady. "No shame in that. Need a little help?" I tilted my head, letting a small smile play on my lips, testing the water. His face flushed deeper, the red creeping up his neck, and he opened his mouth, then closed it, like the words were stuck somewhere he couldn't reach. I don't know if I can," he mumbled, barely above a whisper, his eyes flicking to mine, then away again. "Not with you here.